We have two guests, Margriet and Gonza, and maybe Fuad. Not sure yet if he could. Oh, he will join us? Oh,
yeah,
perfect.
In 25 minutes, he will join us. I have a special program laid out for you.
Nice. We're very excited. I'm sure you all heard about the Amsterdam Museum because we, as the city of Amsterdam, named them several times during Access, and they're also a very important part of our Access program. They're also very important for Amsterdam. And I think the Amsterdam Museum, originally called the Amsterdam Historical Museum, has made a transformation in the past couple of years from an institution that's just next to society to an institution that's in the middle of the society and tries to look at their collection and not as a statistic thing, but something that will be in collaboration with people living in Amsterdam, but also could change during time and reflect on during the time and space we're living in now. I won't say too much because they can do it way better than I can, but I just think it's very important. We are very happy that they will be partnering with us in Access. They're a very important institution in Amsterdam, and they are, although they are centered, how do you say, their building is in the city center. They have all kinds of tacticals in the different boroughs that we are working with. So they will talk a little bit about Women of New West also, which is a very nice example of this. And I feel just as an institution, they're willing to reflect on society, but also reflect on themselves and their role in society, which makes them very, very interesting. Margriet and Gonza, did I leave anything important out?
Hey, thank you already for the generous introduction. That is really nice and kind. And no, we're very happy to present some of our sort of best practices, but also let's take some time also to reflect on the challenges and bad practices in a way. I mean, also there was a meeting past Wednesday. I wasn't there, but it was quite intriguing, I think, what happened there. So maybe that's also a case we can sort of try to unpack amongst us after our presentation. So maybe that's interesting because that really has to do with also like how museums, but also makers can feel that they're sort of instrumentalized by the municipality, but at the same time are very complicit, of course, in the whole, and also have agency in the whole process of changing the city and the system. So I think that can be very, very relevant, and it's we're very keen, at least looking at ourselves also from a critical or self-critical point of view in these kind of processes. Okay. So really looking forward, especially to the discussion, but we thought it would be nice to present also some cases so you know who we are and what we're doing. So my name is Margriet Schavenmaker. I'm artistic director at the museum now for 2 years, and also 1 day in a week professor at the University of Amsterdam, media and art in museum practice, sort of fake chair, but really nice because it can encompass anything. And Gonza, maybe you can introduce yourself already.
Sure. My name is Gonza Jaltschner, and I'm working as a manager of education and participation since beginning of this year. And before that, I was an educator and an exhibition maker, project coordinator. Yeah.
And theater.
I have a theater background. That's an important one within participation projects to say. But I'll.
Growingly, we work with theatre makers. Actually, yesterday I had to lecture on that for a group of theatre makers, and they were really, of course, happy to hear that. But I also look forward to listening to other stories on that, because for me it's quite new that this is happening. Okay, I want to share my screen and just.
I will make you co-host, Margriet, and you can share your screen. I think you're going to talk for 45 minutes.
Yes.
Then and then we can have a short break, and then afterwards we can have room for discussion, questions, etc. Okay, I'm making you co-host right now, and I think you can share your screen. Yeah, by pressing on the green button. Yes.
Okay, good. So actually, let's see. What we would like to do is we would like to invite also Fuad Lakbier that is now 20 minutes from now. So I'll take 10 minutes and Gonza also 10 minutes, and Fuad will guide us around for a brief time to a fantastic project that we're launching actually today, which is presented as a walk but it is of course actually an exhibition, which is quite illegal now due to the COVID rules, but we call it a walk. But more about that later. So what are we going to do? I just wanted to very briefly take you through the Amsterdam Museum. As mentioned also now by Corinne, we are located in the heart of the city, which is actually a very problematic space because not many people are living in the city center. And yeah, so who's owner of that space? But we work a lot in collaboration, or we only work in collaboration with other institutions and with people. So therefore we call ourselves a network museum. We work in co-creation. Gonja will talk more about that. But we have a wonderful collection. So most city museums often and maybe you recognize that also, have very hybrid collections, can be from archaeology to city archive. In our case, we have an amazing collection. Actually, the Night Watch is in our collection, only we had to give it on a permanent load to the Rijksmuseum, but all the brothers and sisters of the Night Watch are in our care. So we have a very, very rich collection actually for a city museum that we also, of course, have to show and display, and how to do that in a relevant way. Well, that is something that we often do with makers, in collaboration with makers like a theater maker like Jurgen Tjonnafong, who said, oh, all these white people on these 17th century portraits were not people of color in the 17th, 18th century. Amsterdam was a city of migration. So he did research, and together with the city archive, and found that there were many people actually in Amsterdam, people of color, living and working in Amsterdam. And what he did is he worked with famous photographers, famous people of color, Amsterdammers of color, and sort of made portraits of these historical figures. So on the left, you see a famous rap artist, Typhoon, who is taking then the role of somebody in the 17th century that actually lived in Amsterdam. What we did is to present these amongst these historical group portraits. And but we also did something else in that is late 2019. We decided after long conversations also with various community in the city that the term we were using for the permanent exhibition of these portraits was a golden age, portrait gallery of the golden age. And that golden age was a term that was so, of course, not neutral, and was very problematic with people that had a history, a bicultural background related to the former colonies or to the colonies. And of course, if your ancestors are people that have been enslaved, it was not a golden age. So we decided to change the title and not use the term golden age anymore, where we could not give it any context. So we doing that, it caused a huge debate in the Netherlands. Like within a couple of hours, the prime minister had responded. The ministry of culture. It was all debates, all the column, everything was devoted to this discussion. It was pre-Black Lives Matter. Of course, we're living now in a different day and age, but at that time it was very, very intense. It brought us a lot. We're a museum that is not very visible. But of course, it is a discussion that I would also like to have with you. Museums are not neutral. We believe that we are not neutral, yet we decide to use a more neutral term like 17th century to open up and become more inclusive, yet that this decision is of course not perceived in society as a neutral, but is taking sides, choosing position in the contemporary debate. A couple of months later, COVID came into our world. And what we did a sort of rapid response action. We decided to collect the memories and experiences of people in the city that they have from in this particular and special day and age. And what we did is said, okay, if we do want to rapidly respond, we send out an open call. So our lockdown started like half of mid-March. Late April, so April 30th, we launched this open call, which says Amsterdam Corona of COVID stories are being sought for. And could you please send them in? And 2 weeks later, we launched this website, this digital exhibition. And since then we have over 1,800 contributions. So people that have sent in their memories. It can be poetry, can be photograph, can be story, can be a video clip. We work with over 40 partners in the city. Key partners that we often work with, like the Public Library and the University of Amsterdam, the City Archive, but also many, many others. And we have already received over 100,000 visitors. We did a public program every week where we, via Zoom, dedicated to new rooms or galleries that were launched and new things that were submitted. If you look at what was happening, what were the general trends in a way is, of course, the whole new way the public space was being used and needed to be changed. We had amazing submissions of people, not professional photographers, but hobbyists, you could say, working on ICs like here, Onze Lieve Vrouwen, one of the hospitals in the city, in the east of the city, showing what was happening there. But most of all, in these first months, we got pictures of an empty Amsterdam. And that was the most remarkable thing. Of course, that is all over the world, something that the cities have gone empty. But why is this in Amsterdam such a big deal? Because we normally had the streets look like this. We receive over 80 million tourists each year on a population of 800,000, which is a big debate in the city, a huge debate. And this is something that became, I think, one of the key topics on our website, like how to deal with tourism after and globalization after COVID, and how can we now use what's happening to change our vision on how to work with this city. Something else happened, of course, on June 1st, the first Black Lives Matter protest in Amsterdam, here on Dam Square, which was, of course, also a big crowd. And it also meant many new submissions to the website with all kinds of experiences, people sending in their own photographs. The last months, we have been mostly working on the more stories that are harder to find, people that don't respond to the call, and people that just need time and mediation. And we work often with Storytelling Center. Fuat, who will join us later, is also part of that. And now these kind of stories are also important. If you work like this, you need mediation, you need artists, you need a network of partners. And then also it is possible to create a platform that is not only receiving the input of people that have the time and the economic, in a way, and mind space to do this, but also people that have a harder time to survive in the city. So so this is something that I'm really proud of, that we did it, but it's not an isolated project. It's very much framed in what we're doing in the museum with our big project Collecting the City and our co-creation projects that Gunja will talk us through. Gunja.
Yes, thank you so much. Is it an idea that I take over as a co-host?
Yeah, absolutely, I think. Or do you want me to stop share screen that you do it yourself, or what do you want?
Yeah, let's do that. Let me do it. Yeah.
I'll make you co-host.
Yes, thank you so much.
In the meantime, Robert, Jurita is saying she can't come in, but I sent her the link twice and it doesn't seem like working, but we can't invite her, or can we? Do you know that?
Let me check. I'll check in the background. Otherwise, I'll
There's
just
something about using her phone and not.
See the Galaxy A70.
No, she's saying she can't. She wants to enter via her phone, but she can't. But I don't know why.
Okay, so I'll go after it.
Yeah, maybe we can invite her otherwise. Well, if you can look up things. Okay, Goncha. Go.
Yes, thank you so much. Let me see if I can. I don't know. Okay, you don't see yourselves, right? Because I see the half of my screen at this moment. But
we see your presentation.
Okay, cool. So I will be talking about our program Collecting the City, Stories of Amsterdam. We will be working towards this big exhibition together with all Amsterdammers, all the inhabitants of the city, or everyone who calls themselves an Amsterdammer. So they don't need to be living in the city in order to join this big exhibition that we're working towards too. The way that we want to do this is making sure that we're not only talking about one historical perspective about the city in 2025, but we really want to make sure that we have layers of stories and different kind of approaches towards how we think the city is, that we're going to be able to show that in 2025. Of course, we're not going to do this alone as an organization, but we have founding partners like the municipality, the city library, the city archives, University of Amsterdam, who are actively working together with us. And besides this, we have many program partners. The targets of this project is that we're going to listen to, that we will be collecting, facilitating, opening up, and ultimately telling a polyphonic story by, for, and with Amsterdammers. And it's quite important that we are really questioning the dominant story of Amsterdam and bring as much as possible layers as we can with stories from the margins, creating stories instead of a story. We really want to empower the participants in telling their own story and in meeting their needs throughout the whole process. So it's, I need to admit someone, I see, or are you going to do that?
We fixed it.
Okay, cool. Okay, then I'll go to them. So the main questions that we are asking the participants is, what significance does Amsterdam have? It's actually the meaning. What meaning does Amsterdam have for you in the now? So we'll start asking this question, we already started actually in 2020, and we'll be asking this question throughout till 2025. And for us, it's a big question where we are searching for what the connection between these stories are, and how can we make this into this polyphonic actually exhibition that we will be sharing with everyone. So I want to talk a bit more about the method and the process. The how we are going to do this is we will be collecting stories and objects ourselves by various methods to be developed, that we will be doing this together with local artists especially. So I really want to make sure that that we're not doing this alone. Also within our museum, we are creating groups, and we are creating project groups with our founding partners, where we are really making sure that we are getting the right questions about how we should be collecting these stories and objects and how they are going to be shown in 2025. We commission artists to create stories in co-creation with residents about their experience of the city of Amsterdam. It's quite interdisciplinary, and Fuad Lakbir, who is going to join us in a few minutes, is one of the examples in this. We offer a platform to initiatives that have storytelling as their core tasks, and we talk about storytelling in many forms. We embrace self and neighborhood organizations that have a core social task in the neighborhoods of Amsterdam, because they are the key persons. They really know what's going on in their neighborhoods, and they can really help us understand the problems, the challenges, and where we can really be of help actually in the visibility of this of these cases. We draw on sub-projects such as the Memory of Amsterdam and Women of the US, and projects of partner institutions. We are really continuously trying to learn and trying to ask ourselves, okay, did we miss something? What could have gone better? And what are the projects that we can learn from? So Vrouw van Nieuw-West, Woman of Nieuw-West is one of the projects that I worked on. It was a co-creation project with neighborhood organizations, but also a co-creation project with the municipality and Pakhuis de Zwijger. And I will be talking you through the methods of how we worked and what we think worked quite well. And we could talk about it later on, about maybe the learning points in this, what could have been better. You see a great picture of a first group, because we asked all the groups, the organizations, what it is that they would want to learn actually within this process of making an exhibition. And they told us that they wanted to have workshops where they could learn more about photography and in storytelling. So they really wanted to interview each other. So we made sure that this could happen. So this is a picture taken in our museum after they learned how to take photographs of portraits of each other. So they photographed each other on this picture. What also was quite important is that they wanted visibility in their own neighborhoods about their work. So we made sure that we created 12 neighborhood expositions. This is one of them, in places where they get together. So we showed the portraits that they had taken of each other. We wrote down the stories, the quotes that they wanted to share about the neighborhood and about the future of their neighborhood. And we made sure that they had a moment, and that's what you see on the table, is how to look back into the history throughout a timeline where you could see the development of the neighborhood. This is another exhibition in the neighborhood, one of my favorites. I see that Fort is here. Fort, I will be asking you to talk in a minute. I'm finishing up my story. This picture is one of my favorites. This is a Turkish female group, quite small group, wasn't very on the focus of other organizations in New West. But they get together each Friday and they collect actually money for those who are in need, and they do that on themselves. So they invited us on this exhibition to join them, and everything that you see on the table was delicious, but was offered by them. So they thought it was quite important what we were doing together in co-creation about their visibility, that this was from them a moment where we could really celebrate what we were doing. And that's an important part of this project. And one of the biggest learnings is that we can really celebrate, we can talk about our stories. And this is another event that follow up on this, where we sat down with 250 women in the US. Everybody was eating, sharing stories. We had performances, and the main goal was to connect with each other from their own power, actually, what it was that they are doing for their neighborhoods. And it doesn't have to be big or life-changing, but really just being there and understanding the importance of sharing what you have in stories, but in activities, in how you react upon each other when things maybe go wrong in the neighborhood, with what kind of other organizations can you connect. So it was a great moment where we really felt the positivity, but also the power of celebration, to say so, in for the future development of this project. Because from this moment on, we were able to ask 2 professional photographers to create portraits, group portraits of them. And this is an exhibition that traveled throughout the whole city. We started in New West, we put them in 8 different places, and then we traveled to the city. And then these are examples of that. And then we ended at the Amsterdam Museum with a great exhibition here. And for this project, it's quite important to have the 2 words mutuality and equality in our minds, because it's quite important that the moment that we talked about making a project in co-creation with these organizations, they heard the fact that we are a museum. So there is a silent promise in that part. So the moment that you say, let's create something together, there is an expectation of them being a part of the history of the stories of the history of the city. So there is an expectation to be able to show their stories with the visitors of our museum. So this was the last step that we took, and a very important one for them to experience. And I will be leaving it at that. Oh, don't. So, and then we have Fuad.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Thank you, Gonja, and thank you also being so clear about the goals also. And I think now for short introduction to Fuad. I mean, I think we can stop sharing our screen because welcome, Fuad. Fuad is now in the New West, where we do an amazing project in the context of collecting city. We can talk about it later. It's one of the two first projects. Fuad, where are you? And who are you? Of course, introduce yourself to these wonderful people. And what are we gonna be expect? I mean, Gonja and I are traveling up to you in a couple of hours. But what are we gonna do today?
Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Fuad Lakbir, and I'm happy to take you today with me for 15 minutes to the Jacob Geelbuurt. The Jacob Geelbuurt is a neighborhood, a small neighborhood in the New West district of Amsterdam. And maybe before I take you with me into this project, I have to say two things. Since COVID, my English became Dinglish. So sometimes I use literally the Dutch English translation. So if you lose me in a translation, just send a message and maybe I can fix that. The second thing is, so my name is Fuad Lakbir. I'm a storyteller. So that's my profession. And right now I'm working for a project in the project Collecting the City in the Jacob Geelbuurt, in the New West district. My English is coming. And actually what we are doing right now, I will show you where I am right now. This building, which you see in here, this building, 4 of these. So if you would go behind this building, and maybe we will see a bit later on in this 15 minutes, 4 of these buildings will be demolished in 8 days, if I'm not mistaken. On the 3rd of March, they will start demolishing this these buildings. And since they are doing that, normally people have a right to return, but since they are the first inhabitants of these neighborhoods, which are having this phase, they have to leave the neighborhood. And more than a year ago, in March last year, Amsterdam Museum contacted me, and they asked me, "Hey, Fuad, would you be interested in collecting stories in the Jacob Geelbuurt in a way that you also strengthen people?" And in that time, we were in a very heavy lockdown, and I adopted a bit because I live in the Koliketbuurt, which is in the west. It's 7 minutes of biking, but I really adopted in that moment because I am not super rooted in this neighborhood. I'm more rooted in my own neighborhood. But still, I said, let's give it a try and see if we can find a way to collect stories. And in the beginning, I really, partly because of COVID, I really, it was a challenge to find a way to collect stories in a way that I'm not, that I don't collect it in a way that I just collect while I have no participation with the inhabitants of the neighborhood. But so it was very hard for me to find a way in the beginning where the inhabitants, the people who live here, were in charge. So it took time, but at some point in September, the 18th of September, so last summer, one day I came in contact with one woman of this neighborhood. Her name is Meshda. And when I spoke to her, when I got in touch with her, I asked her the question, what is the thing which really keeps you busy at this moment, living here in the neighborhood? And she told me the fact that I have to leave. And there we got the sweet spot. There, that moment, I found it. it was in the beginning really a long search how to start. But the moment I got in touch with her, we found our first story. And actually from her story, we started collecting stories of a neighborhood, a part of the neighborhood, which will be demolished, which will, how do you say that? Which won't exist from 1 week. So about 1 week, this whole story with all its connections will be gone. And I will take you with me to one of the spaces where we have one of the rooms which we created, because we created with the inhabitants of this building. So this whole building, we created in this building together with them a museum of saying actually farewell, but also taking your time to really feel how it was to live here, what it meant to them, who were they, but also where are they going? What is their next step in their life? Let's go there. Gonja and Margriet, if you think, Fouad, you need some guidance, help me, because I'm here in super production. So
You're doing a
my
great
head is
job.
full with thousands of talks. But I will take you with me to one of the first spaces you see if you visit our museum. So how it works, you ring actually the bell there of Mejda, who lives there. And she gives you the key to the first space. And this is not a museum exposition, which so we used podcasting, so audio, drawings, and we collected objects together with inhabitants. The exposition in my culture, our guests are holy. So you guys as well are holy. That's the way you start the tour. And when you enter today at 4 o'clock, actually I should not tell this to Margriet because it should be a surprise. But you invited me, so I will tell a bit. You will receive from Meredith, who was one of the inhabitants of this building, you will receive a croquette. This is Diane, my colleague from Moving Arts Project, because I didn't do this alone. I did this together with Moving Arts Project. This is Diane. I'm right now in a short international meeting of Margriet, telling them about our project. And we are now in a rush. And the moment you enter, you listen to a story, you receive an Iranian croquette, and you have to give an answer on this question. Did you ever make place for someone else so that asked? And from that, you will be you get the space to enter one of the first spaces, which is built and created by Meredith himself, one of the inhabitants of this building. And Meredith, when I met him first, and I talked with him and invited him to participate with us, his response was, "Man, I have no story to tell, and I have nothing to make. I don't know what to do." And when we entered his house, we saw this closet, and we were like, "Who built this?" And we saw this retablo, and we said, "Who built this?" And he told us he built this. So he made this retablo, which is a miniature of a building made with stuff he recycled. And as well, this closet is totally recycled. And then we thought, hey, Meredith, one, you are an artist in that sense. And at the same time, you have really a story to tell, because he had a story to tell. And he made actually, especially for this exposition, this retablo of his old view. And he wrote in different languages, the languages which he experiences as the language of the neighborhood, which is a mixture of English, Dutch, Arabic, Farsi, and Turkish, and Spanish, by the way. And he made this. And actually, when I started this project, we were questioning ourselves, who are the artists of this neighborhood and what is the story they want to tell? And I'm now 8 months further. And we have now a building full with stories where they took time to think about what it was to live here, how it feels that the system pushed them out, because it's the system which pushed them out. In some cases in a positive way, but in a lot of cases also in a painful way. And also with the question, is this the way we should reorganize and rebuild and grow actually our city? Because we want to grow as a city, we need that. But is this the way in which way we want to do that? This is actually in short, with a bit of emotion I feel in my sound, my voice, what we are doing right now in this neighborhood.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Fuad, thank you. I mean, and I feel your emotion already.
If I missed something in my story, Margriet and Gonja, please ask me a question and I can add. But right now, I don't really know what to say more than.
No,
I hope that you see everybody is clapping. So you did a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And well, I hope that also.
I have just one thing to add.
Tell me.
One thing to add on this is two things which really.
We lose you.
Are you guys with me right now?
Ja, nou hoor je weer. Ja.
Can you hear me?
Ja, nu wel.
Okay. Two things which I really think or experience right now by doing this project for actually a year it is. Mm-hmm. One thing which I really think which really goes through my mind is how. So by doing this, we started something. We started a movement, a group. We gave people the feeling, hey, you can make something. You're an artist. How can you create a system? Because I think we need some sort of system where what you start continues in a way. And with this, I mean more the individuals which are activated in a way. For example, Meredith. He's actually, what I found out, he's someone who can build stuff, who, if you see the space he built, it's magical from my perspective. How can you create a system where he can continue after this project? And the second thing is, with this project, personally, I feel the need, the urge to really make also a movement, a next step. If we talk about beleidsvorming, what's the Dutch, the English word for beleidsvorming?
Policy.
Policy. That's the word. I'm sorry. I know that word, but it went just the Jacob Geel. Anyway, it feels like we are doing something which is funded by the local government, and we are doing it together. But somehow I think, hey, we are showing something in here, and there is something coming up. But how can you translate this in a way, and not only with this project, but in general, also in a way that it's not each time just a project, but that more adds up on each other, because it feels always, and I think that it will stay like that for a long time, but it feels always like two worlds, which from my perspective should find each other. So those are the two questions which I just leave with you. Mm-hmm. You don't have to do anything with it. That's
we
something
will,
which
really,
which really goes through my mind. Like, hey, that's actually where I am right now.
Ja, dankjewel, Fuad. And thank you so much, because I think what you now did is, Gonja already said, like, there's two key terms, that it is mutuality and equity in a way, and you added two more. You added sustainability, you could say, so longer relationship, and you added policy making, and it's also, I think, accountability, I would also say, in a way. So I think that is very interesting you bring in these terms, because they are very much part of what we are doing, and what the movement in a way that we're starting in collaboration with the municipality, but at the same time also questioning. In a way, there's a lot of institutional critique here, and critique on several levels that we need to also come to terms with. And but thank you so much. I look forward driving up there in a couple of hours and meeting you there. And I think that on behalf of all of us here, we let you go. And you can of course
small thing.
Yeah, vertel.
One small thing. So Corine and Robert, you guys saw me right now twice. So visit us.
Yes,
Okay?
we will.
I will, definitely, yes.
Heel
It was a
goed.
good teaser, this presentation and this tour. Thank you.
Okay, dankjewel Fuad.
Dank je. Bye
Okay.
bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Hey, ciao, ciao. I think it's time for a short break right now, right, Corinne? And
Yeah.
because this was our presentation, and I think a lot of food for thought, but maybe we need also some actual food and drinks.
Yeah, thank you so much, Margriet, Gonzout, also Fuad, who I think just left.